trigger warning. This podcast is going to contain graphic descriptions of crime scenes, crimes, suicide, death, things like that. If that's something that you are triggered by, maybe this isn't the episode for you. We'll see you next week where we talk about something that isn't as like intense as true crime. Podcast number 2.
Podcast number 2. Hello, and welcome to We Are Trying episode 2. My name is Aurora.
I am B.
We're your host with the most. Why did I do that voice? I don't know.
The host with the most.
The host with the most. So today we've got a very, very, very special topic. We decided the best way to jump into our pop culture deconstruction, as is the entire premise of this show, was to start with something that B knew everything possible about.
And still learned so much more.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. That's the whole point.
This is an interest of mine. It's been an interest of mine for years. This week's podcast is on true crime.
Woohoo!
So excited. I could talk about true crime forever.
Pause 1 second. Jagger.
How dare Jagger wants to be involved in the intro.
Jagger, do you want to come introduce the episode? No? You just want to bark at the people getting out of their car? No? Okay.
So I have always loved true crime. It's always so interesting to me. I debated in high school. Jagger's just gonna bark. I debated in high school, going to school to be a child forensic psychologist.
Ooh.
So basically studying psychology on children who commit crimes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I love true crime. It's always interesting. I think cases that are solved are super interesting because you get to kind of hear from the person who committed the crime or know more about why they might have done it. But I also love unsolved cases because you can make your own theory and build your own theory.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm going to talk about in our first topic. So basically what I've done is I researched for an entire week 4 different, I guess, crime cases. It'll slowly get more and more crazy to the point where you will be concerned for me with how much research I put into this.
Look, as soon as we finished taping the previous episode, I started getting Snapchats from B that were like, oh, I've started researching for the next episode. And then things got wild. That night, things got wild. And I can't wait to talk about that.
Because I was like, I'm going to spend just like an hour getting like a little bit of information together because then I don't need to like do it the night before. And then I do have some stuff prepared. I didn't want to just like do it the night before, be stressed, because then it's like I'm in school all over again and I don't want to do that to myself. But then I fell down so many rabbit holes and I could not get myself out, and I'm continuing to fall down the rabbit hole. I literally have debated on making a true crime YouTube channel at this point because I've discovered how much I love researching true crime just as a hobby.
I would watch that.
Maybe I will do that.
The only true crime podcast, not even podcast, the only true crime channel I follow is BuzzFeed Unsolved. So
I watch a lot. It's going to sound like I'm a crazy person, but I will watch these to go to sleep at night because they're so relaxing to me. Stephanie Harlow, I really, really love. Bailey Sarian, also I recommend Bailey Sarian if you love crime and makeup, because she does Murder, Mystery, and Makeup Mondays, where she just talks about a true crime case and does her makeup. It's so cool. And Kendall Ray, amazing true crime YouTubers. And I did go off of videos they've done on these topics in some of my research. But like, it's some of my favorite YouTubers, not sponsored, wish it was. I wish they would reach out to me and be like, I will pay you to talk about me on your podcast. They likely never will. Oh, I'm already getting carried away. I'm so excited.
I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Should we get into some of the
Let's get
cases?
into it. Scare me. Do it.
So first one, we're kind of starting off easy, but one that I'm very passionate about, the Zodiac Killer. What's that theme song that's like the dum dum? Law and Order.
Law and Order, yeah.
Yeah. Insert that sound, but we can't actually use it because it's probably copyrighted.
I'll just do the sound effect of you making the sound.
Doo doo. The Zodiac Killer is the name of an American serial killer in Northern California from at least the early 60s. The late 60s to the early 70s. Already messing up. That's great. Anyways. The Unidentified Killer originated the name in letters sent to the San Francisco Bay Area press. They murdered 5 known victims between 68 and 69.
Hold on. So they were in San Francisco in the late 60s and early 70s. In like the hippie era.
Mm-hmm.
Why does that sound so strange?
I don't know. I realized that as I was doing research because from the Love You Make, I was like, wait, it was like height of hippies.
Yeah. Like, all that I got going through my head now is like on one side of the room, you have all the hippies like smoking, doing their stuff, make love, not war. And on the other side, you have the Zodiac Killer just like killing people.
The Zodiac Killer just like sitting down in a bar.
Yeah. And like they're in the same place, like polar opposites in the exact same place at the exact same time. That's wild to me.
It's crazy.
What if the Zodiac Killer was a hippie? Oh, new conspiracy theory.
Okay. So he targeted young couples, but he also murdered a cab driver. But they do claim to have murdered 37 victims. But the only ones that are confirmed are David Farday and Betty Lou Jensen, Michael Mageau, who survived, and Darlene Ferrin, Brian Hartnell, who survived, and Cecilia Shepard, and Paul Stein, who was the cab driver. Those are the only cases that have been confirmed as the Zodiac Killer.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, because if he said he killed 37, how do we not have proof of the others? But if they're the only ones that are confirmed, I guess.
Those are the only ones that are confirmed. He said that he killed 37 victims in like one of his letters that he sent, and was just like, I killed 37 people, and they just kind of had to like take his word for it. But the only actual like confirmed, like we know he did this, is the people I just stated.
Gotcha. Interesting.
So as of April 2004, the case was marked inactive. However, they reopened the case around March of 2007. Some good information, though, is in May 2018, the Vallejo Police Department announced their intent to attempt to collect the Zodiac Killer's DNA and upload it to GEDmatch. It was hoped that the killer may be caught in a similar fashion to the Golden State Killer. In May of 2018, they said that results were expected in a few weeks. However, as of March 2021, no results have been reported. So I'm going to explain a little bit what GEDmatch is. So you know how there's like 23andMe, where you like spit in the tube and then like you send it? Well, that goes into a public database. And so how they did it for the Golden State Killer is they were able to take some DNA from an old R word kit and put that into GEDmatch and be like, and it came up with like a bunch of people. So then they took the people that were related to him, narrowed it down to who would have been around that area, around that time, the same nationality as him, and they narrowed it down to 2 people. And one of them never lived in California. And it left with Joseph D'Angelo. And so they went to his house, they swabbed his doorknob, and then grabbed a tissue from his garbage that he had like freshly blown his nose into, and it was a perfect match, and that's how he was caught.
Wow.
So if you want more crimes to be solved, opt in on GEDmatch. Highly recommend it. So I'm not going to go through all of the theories of who the Zodiac Killer is.
Ted Cruz, sorry.
I knew that was gonna happen. My actual answer is Arthur Lee Allen. So Robert Graysmith wrote a book called Zodiac and suspected Allen based on circumstantial evidence. But I don't think all of it's circumstantial because, like, you'll kind of pick up on it. It's pretty good evidence.
Okay, let's go. I want to hear this now.
So, October 6th in 69, he was interviewed by the Vallejo Police Department. He had been reported in the vicinity of Lake Berryessa in the attack against Hartnell and Shepard. He described himself as scuba diving, but when he came home, his family said he was covered in blood.
Was he scuba diving inside a whale? Like, how does that happen? How does that happen, sir? That doesn't line up,
scuba
sir.
Diving, though.
Sir, that doesn't like. Also, scuba diving? That's your excuse?
You just randomly I didn't actually do research into this, but like, did he actually know how to scuba dive, or like?
That's a good question. Was it a scuba diving class
thing in 69?
Well, if he said it, I guess so. I think it was. But also,
you have a whole suit of scuba gear.
If someone comes into their home covered in blood, your immediate first reaction is not, "Hey, why are you covered in blood? Hey, maybe I should call the police because you're covered in blood. Either you are hurt or someone else is hurt." Like,
I believed he blamed it on like killing an animal. But like, why are you absolutely covered in blood? You know?
Did you explain what how the Zodiac Killer killed people?
I did not explain it, but he either shot people or stabbed people. He shot
okay.
everybody except for Hartnell and Shepard at Lake Berryessa. He tied them up and stabbed them.
Great.
He also came to attention in 71 when a friend reported to the police that Allen had spoken of his desire to kill people, his use of the name Zodiac, and he wanted to secure a flashlight to a firearm for visibility at night.
That's your killer.
That's your killer.
Like, he's making it so obvious. How come?
Bada bing, bada boom. There's your killer. Arrest him. What else do you need?
And even if he wasn't the killer of this case, there's so many signs pointing towards him being a killer.
He's or Jack a danger.
Yeah.
In 72, they obtained a search warrant for his residence. I believe this is the search warrant where they found, because something in one of the letters that the Zodiac said that he would shoot out the front tire of a school bus and then shoot the kids as they come out, or to bomb a school bus. And when they looked through his residence, they found diagrams for makeshift bombs. Which is like, dog, arrest him.
Danger, Will Rogers.
Literally. And in 74, he was arrested and served 2 years of imprisonment for S.A.ing a young boy. Now, this is actually circumstantial evidence here, but one of the letters was typed with a royal typewriter, the same brand found during a search during 91 of his residence. But like, there's so many makes of that. You can't actually be like, that's hard evidence, because it's really not. It's just like, it basically would be something if in a trial, it'd be like, here's all the actual evidence, and then here's a little bit more.
Yeah.
He also lived in Vallejo, worked minutes away from where one of the victims lived and from where one of the killings took place. Again, circumstantial. A lot of people live in the area, so it's like, are you gonna, question every single person who lives in the area? No, you're not.
Hey, that's what the prince did when he couldn't find Cinderella. I think we can.
I don't think that's how this is gonna work, but you know what? Might as well try.
You know what? Where's the harm?
Where's the harm in it? A retired police officer, handwriting expert, compared his handwriting to the letters, and he said none of his writing comes even close to the Zodiac, nor did DNA from the stamps. But you also don't need to lick a stamp. You can literally, you can use water and then.
Yeah, that's true. Is it possible there could have been like two people behind it? Like one was the killer and one was doing the writing?
That is a theory, but I don't know how much I believe that theory. Some people believe that it started off as one person and then a copycat continued it. But this guy's kind of a dick, so like, I don't think if somebody is copying him, he's gonna be like, no, this person's fucking copying me. Like,
yeah,
don't believe this guy. I'm the actual Zodiac. I'm gonna kill 10 people. Yeah, that's basically what I have for Zodiac.
So why did they call him Zodiac? The
He
Zodiac
came
Killer?
up with that name. One of the letters that he sent said, "This is the Zodiac speaking."
You can't pick your own nickname.
He
That's not
did.
how that works.
He did.
All right, sir, that's fine. I'm just going to drag all of them. I hope you know. I'm going to find
Yeah,
reasons
no.
to insult all
The
of
next
them.
one, I don't know if you can drag these ones because they're children.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if you can drag. Well, they're not children anymore. I think they're like 17 or 18. But like
Oh, this is more
at
recent.
the time, yeah, it happened in 2014.
All
You
right.
might remember hearing of this on the news. So the next one, this is the case that made me debate on going into child forensic psychology. The Slenderman stabbing.
Oh, I didn't know that was like an actual, like, I didn't know that led to an actual case or anything. I remember hearing that, like, there was stuff going on, but I didn't, like, okay, go on.
All right. So May 31st, 2014, Waukesha, Wisconsin, two 12-year-old girls, Anissa Wire and Morgan Geyser, lured their best friend, Peyton Lautner, into the woods and stabbed her 19 times in an attempt to become proxies of Slenderman.
Okay. I already have multiple questions. One being, how does a 12-year-old have enough strength to stab someone, especially 19 times?
Adrenaline?
Adrenaline to kill your best friend?
Well, we'll get more into stuff. So a little bit for listeners, or I don't know if you know who Slenderman is, but I'm going to go over it. Slenderman is a fictional character created by Reddit user Victor Surge. His real name is Eric Knudsen. It was for a Photoshop contest to create something creepy that looked real but wasn't. People on the website Creepypasta Wiki began writing and creating spooky stories around Slenderman in the vein of making him seem real. Basically, what they would do on Creepypasta is you would take a creepy story and you write it as if it was a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then people would reply as if they also experienced it and believed it, thus creating this endless stream of these really realistic seeming stories. The girls found the website and they became infatuated with Slenderman and wanted to prove themselves worthy to him. So Morgan went up to Anissa at school one day and said, "Hey, Anissa, we should be proxies of Slenderman." Anissa replies, "Okay, how do we do that?" And Morgan said, "We have to kill Bella," which was their nickname for Peyton. And this is quoted all in police interviews with them. I watched them all. So many hours. I watched so many hours of crime stuff this past week.
Wait, so the interviews of these girls are like on the internet?
On YouTube.
Guess what I'm doing after this?
There's a really good documentary that HBO did called Beware the Slenderman. It's very well-rounded documentary and focuses a lot on the family, which I think is super important. So the actual attack took place in a nearby forest during a game of hide and seek. Lautner was pinned down and stabbed 19 times in the arms, legs, and torso with a kitchen knife that had a 5-inch long blade by Morgan. 2 wounds were to major organs. One missed a major artery of her heart by less than a millimeter. Surgeons said like the width of a human hair. And another went into her diaphragm, cutting into her liver and stomach.
Oh, God.
Absolutely wild. The girls told Lautner that they would go and find help, but they did not get any. Now, this doesn't end with the death of anyone, and I think that's the most amazing part. Peyton, this 12-year-old girl, after being stabbed 19 times, drags herself onto the road, lays on a patch of grass, and by some chance, a cyclist ignored a sign that said a bike path was closed and drove down it anyways, and he saw her and called 911.
Wow.
That is one strong girl.
Yeah, and she's still alive?
She's still alive. She recently did an interview with ABC talking. I think she was 17 at the time of the interview, but she actually told her side of the story, and she said, "I shouldn't be alive right now. I wasn't meant to live, but I did."
Jesus.
Wild story.
So, no, I guess I don't have a question. That's wild.
Mm-hmm. So Wire and Geyser were found near Interstate 94 after walking almost 5 miles towards Nicollet National Forest, where Slenderman supposedly lived. They had found on the internet that he had a mansion in the woods in Nicollet National Forest, and that's where he lived with all of his proxies. And so they were going to go there to find Slenderman. The knife that was used in the stabbing was in a bag that they carried. Morgan felt absolutely no empathy. Wire was described as feeling guilty for stabbing Peyton, but felt that the attack was needed to appease Slenderman. Now, something that is really important to say is that Morgan was later diagnosed with schizophrenia. So, the way in the HBO documentary that the psychologist describes it on trial is there's a difference between delusions and hallucinations. Believing that Slenderman is real is a delusion, and that's something both of the girls shared. But claiming that you've seen Slenderman, which Morgan said multiple times, is a hallucination.
Right.
Another great thing about Peyton, she left the hospital 7 days after the attack and returned to school in September of that same year.
Jeez.
Strong girl.
God. Yeah.
So the girls went through trial. They were tried as adults.
Good.
But instead of getting a jail sentence, they are serving time in mental institutions, which I personally think is better because you were 12 years old. You can be rehabilitated into society, and you already have to deal for the rest of your life with the guilt of I made this huge mistake and it was all over the news and everybody knows.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. In the aftermath of the stabbing, the Creepypasta Wiki website was blocked throughout Waukesha School District. The Tuesday following the stabbing, the creator of Slenderman said, "I am deeply saddened by the tragedy in Wisconsin, and my heart goes out to the families of those affected by the terrible act." The administrator of Creepypasta Wiki said that the stabbing was an isolated incident, did not accurately represent the creepypasta community. He also stated and made it clear that the website was fake. Yeah, thoughts on that?
It's funny because I remember, when was that? You said 2014?
2014.
So I was in high school. Oh my God, I was in high school. Ooh. I don't ever remember hearing about the case at all. And I don't even think I really knew who Slenderman was till recently. Like I had heard people, I'd heard people talk about the character. And I was always just like, no, that's not a thing. And because I didn't really go on the internet other than to like look at musical theater stuff until I was like 16 years old, I had no concepts. Like I didn't have a Tumblr account till I was like 16.
Really?
Yeah. But anyway, I didn't really know. And then my boyfriend, I don't know how to keep up in conversation. I think we were talking about old video games. He started telling me about the old Slenderman video game.
I remember playing that.
I had no idea. And he showed me like all these playthroughs and everything, and then had to describe and explain the entire backstory. And I was like, oh, so when these kids were talking about this, they were not just trying to scare me. They themselves were very much afraid. Oh, gotcha. So that's wild. Like I like at first I was kind of like, oh, it's so wild that these people, these young girls would believe in something like this. But then I also think, well, we're just taught at such a young age to believe in like Santa Claus, who is not real. But like if Santa Claus is real, then what else is real?
And if you think about it, Santa Claus only remains real. Also, rip, if anyone listening to this doesn't believe in Santa Claus. Um, Santa Claus is believed to be real because people keep telling stories. And I saw, guys, guess what? Last night I came downstairs while everyone was sleeping to get some water and I saw Santa. It's people adding to the narrative, just like creepypasta.
Yeah. Which is not to say I think that like the myth of Santa Claus is bad at all. But just
Santa Claus doesn't tell you to kill people.
Exactly. Just a similar concept and very interesting and a little creepy that like 12-year-old children would be like, yes, and now we shall kill someone. Like at 12, I was worried about if Hannah Montana would ever notice me. Spoiler, Hannah Montana is also not real.
Hannah Montana is very real, actually. Hannah Montana is a stage persona, and she's very real.
Okay, fine.
The stage persona of her is very real, but like Hannah Montana being her own separate like person, not real.
Yes, that is correct.
I love how this is where we've
Slenderman to Hannah Montana.
Yeah, we went from Slenderman to Santa to Hannah Montana.
You get the best of both worlds.
Also, one thing I want to add before we move on, there's a movie called Slenderman on Netflix that I watched with my mom in the summer, and I watch it now and I need a good laugh because it's just so bad. Like the acting.
I did hear about that. The
acting at times I'm like, okay, like yeah, that's like decent acting. But there's one character that's literally there for like 3 lines and then she just isn't there. And it's like so bad, and like the special effects are so bad too, and it makes me laugh. And it's under like horror thrillers, and I was like, all right, I'm down to watch this with my mom. And my mom and I, after it finished, were literally like, that was dumb. So I watch it when I need to laugh now.
That's so funny. I have no intention of watching it, but maybe now I will. Maybe now I do have an intention.
Oh, watch it, and then next week, before we start like going into your topic, I need a review.
Okay, I'll see if I can pull it together and watch a horror film.
It's not scary.
Good.
There's a couple parts where you'll be like, oh, because like there was a loud noise, but it's literally not actually scary. They just add in like those sound effects.
Oh yeah.
Which is like that makes, if you have too many of those in, to me, it's a bad horror movie.
Yeah, and then that makes sense. Too much of anything makes it bad.
Yeah. All right, we're getting so carried away.
Well, no, but this is the point. This is the point.
This is the podcast.
This is the podcast.
Welcome to We're Trying. This episode's sponsored by the Flare. Support the Flare. Give us money, please. Yeah.
Hey, if you want to say hi to us and leave us a voice message, feel free to do that. I'm putting the link to do that in our Instagram bio at We're Trying Pod on Instagram. Boom, boom, boom.
So the next two we're going to talk about. So another thing that's very interesting to me is cults. So I'm going to talk about 2 cults. Probably some of the most like, I don't want to say famous, but like well-known cults, at least in the US, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And the one I'm about to talk about, I'm going to say the saying and see if anybody can guess. I needed to burp. So the saying that came out of this case was, don't drink the Kool-Aid. I'm going to give everyone a second. So the thing we're going to be talking about is Jonestown. Remember how you sent me that TikTok of,
yeah,
I'm Jim Jones and I'm alive and well. This is what we're going to talk about.
Oh, okay. I knew it was a cult leader. I looked him up. I didn't know it had anything to do with Kool-Aid.
Oh, this is a wild story.
All right.
So it was originally called the People's Temple Agricultural Project, but its informal name is Jonestown. The temple was formed in 1955. It started out, I'm going to say this and it's going to sound crazy, but with good intentions in mind. A lot of what Jim Jones was trying to do was stop segregation. So things he would do would go into restaurants and stuff. They said like, oh, only white people can eat here. And he would say, I will bring you hundreds and hundreds of sales if you let people of color eat here too, and you no longer segregate it. And so they did. And then everybody, the hundreds of people that were like his followers, would go and eat at that restaurant. So it would bring them sales. So many restaurants were lifted, like they weren't doing segregation anymore. So it started out with good intentions, but because of drugs that Jim Jones was using and just the power going to his head, it went really bad, really fast. This man took so many wrong turns. Like there's literally like hey, this is a good choice over here. Hey, this is a bad choice over here. He deliberately was like, hell yeah, bad choice. Like, so many wrong turns. And I'm not going to say that, like, he was a good person because he was a terrible person.
Yeah.
But if he would have not done drugs, I think he could have done good things. It's just power does shit to people, you know?
Yeah.
So he did receive lots of criticism in Indiana for his views. So that's where he started. So they moved to Redwood Valley, California,
So
and
it's
then
always California.
and then they moved to Los Angeles, San Francisco, and that's kind of where they put their headquarters of the temple. So in 73, a newspaper was put out that really scrutinized 8 like really high-ranking temple members. So they started to prepare for immediate action. For those just listening, I'm doing quotations. Basically, to respond to a police or media crackdown. The plan had various options, including fleeing to Canada, which thank fucking God they didn't do that, or a Caribbean missionary post. So the temple quickly chose Guyana. They wanted to establish an agricultural mission there, basically wanted to make their own town. So in 77, several hundred people moved to Jonestown, and it became overcrowded very quickly. Population was slightly under 900. A lot of the members believed that Guyana, damn it, I forgot how to say it, would be a paradise or utopia, but after Jim Jones arrived, life significantly changed.
So wait, how did all of these people find out about Jonestown and join?
He would tour and go around to different churches and heal people. And be like, you,
Oh,
I banish your headache, but it would be like his friends in the crowd. And so people would be like, he's performing miracles. And because he also believed that all people, no matter the color of your skin, you were equal, a lot
gotcha.
of the people were African Americans. And people liked that. They liked the way he thought. He's very charismatic. I've
They're always
listened to
charismatic.
charisma score is just through the roof. I listened to a lot of him speaking. So many of my hours this week were spent just listening to people talk. So for the first several months, members worked 6 days a week, from 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. with an hour for lunch. After the day's work ended, temple members would attend several hours of like worship in the main pavilion. Basically, it was like a brainwashing technique. After you're done work, you're like brain dead. You've been working for 11 hours. And then you have to go sit until like 2 in the morning sometimes, just listening to him ramble on. And so you're tired and you just believe it.
Hmm.
You look like you have something to say.
Just all that's going through my head is he made them listen to him talk from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Was that man a Leo?
I wonder if he was.
Because, same. But also, that's a little
Look.
concerning.
Jim Jones, zodiac sign, Taurus.
That's a full-time job for him. That's 8 hours of talking.
Yeah.
I hope that man had water.
Well, speaking of that, Jonestown was not self-sufficient.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
So they had to import a lot of things. Really, all they ate was like rice, beans, and occasionally meat and eggs.
That is not healthy.
And not vegan.
And not vegan. More importantly,
More importantly, not vegan.
not vegan.
So, various forms of punishment were used against members that were considered to like be trouble or whatever, cause issues. But it was never like, you have to go through a trial and then you get put in prison for blank years or, capital punishment, things like that. Methods included imprisonment in a small box, forcing children to spend a night at the bottom of a well, sometimes upside down. And for members who attempted to escape, drugs were given to them at an extended care unit. and armed guards patrolled the area day and night to enforce Jonestown's rules.
Do we know what kind of drugs they were?
I don't think I could find anything on that.
Okay.
My guess is it would be like some sort of sedative.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be anything to kill them because they didn't
Oh,
believe in
yeah.
capital punishment. But it would be probably something that would make them loopy, and then they could, say you made a mistake. You made a big mistake. Like, why would you do that? Jonestown is amazing.
This is like some Marvel film villain bullshit.
Yeah, it's wild. Now, this is kind of where shit starts to hit the fan.
This is where shit starts to hit the fan?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Congressman Leo Ryan arrived in Guyana. Members refused to allow them into Jonestown, but they informed Jones that they would leave for Jonestown that afternoon, regardless of what he said.
Jagger? Buddy?
A couple hours later, they arrived a few miles from Jonestown. Only Ryan and 3 others of his group were initially accepted into Jonestown. The rest of the group was only allowed in after sunset. That night, they attended a musical reception in the main pavilion, but it was later verified by audio tapes recovered by investigators that Jones had run rehearsals on how to convince Ryan that everyone was happy and in good spirits. So here's the interesting thing. All of Jones' preachings, they were audio recorded. So I actually listened to some.
Oh, interesting. How are they?
They're just a lot of rambling, a lot of imagination. Because remember, he was doing a lot of drugs at this time. So It was basically just like his head was spinning and he was just coming up with so many things.
Are those on YouTube as well?
I believe that's where I found them. Either that or on Wikipedia, there was one that I listened to. I will say the one on Wikipedia I listened to only if you have like a tough stomach, because I listened to it and I'll get into what it was in a bit, but it was hard to listen to. So 2 Temple members the night of the musical reception, Vernon Gosney and Monica Bagby, they slipped a note to Leo Ryan saying, please help us get out of Jonestown. So they were trying to be like, it's not great here, like fucking help us. But a child nearby witnessed it and alerted other Temple members, because that's what they were trained to do. They trained the kids to do that.
Jeez.
Might I add, a third of the population of Jonestown was kids, like children, infants.
Who couldn't consent to being part of this sort of...
And they all had to call Jim Jones, like, father.
This man...
Oh, it gets worse.
Oh, God. Okay.
So in the early mornings of November 18th, 11 Temple members ended up getting on a truck with Ryan's, I guess, crew, and they were going to escape to go back to mainland America. They began to depart to the airstrip, but shortly before the truck left, Temple loyalist Larry Layton demanded to join the group, but several of the people who were trying to leave said that they were suspicious about his motives. Because there were so many people now that were trying to leave, another aircraft was required. At that time, Larry Layton produced a handgun and started shooting at passengers. Ryan was killed after being shot more than 20 times.
Oh my God.
So they killed a congressman. After their departure from Jonestown, there was a broadcast on the public address system just saying like, oh, everything's okay, return to your homes, ha ha ha. This is where the Kool-Aid comes in. During this time, Kool-Aid was prepared in a large metal tub. It was grape flavored Kool-Aid, but it was poisoned with cyanide. About 30 minutes after the first announcement, Jim Jones made his own, calling all members immediately to the pavilion. He urged Temple members to commit revolutionary suicide. Children first, adults second. A syringe without a needle was used to squirt poison into the children's mouth. Clayton said after adults saw the poison begin to take effect in the children, they showed a reluctance to die. Some members did willingly go up and drink the poison. Others were found having the poison injected from behind. So this leads people to believe that not all of them were willing to die.
Yeah.
Now, here's the part that makes me mad. Oh, I will say, so what the recording I listened to was Jones urging the temple members to commit the revolutionary suicide, and basically it plays until all the children are dead.
As like crazy as all of this is, the one thing that I can't wrap my head around is killing the children.
Well, he told all the adults they're going to come here, they're going to murder all of us and steal our children. So we need to commit revolutionary suicide.
I mean, he's not wrong. That probably is what would have happened, but
I don't think so. I think they would have probably killed him.
well, yes, yeah. I don't know if they would have killed everybody.
Larry
but
Layton didn't die. The guy that produced the handgun, I believe he was charged with so many things. I think he's dead by now.
that's just wild.
But something that makes me pissed off. Jones was found dead, lying next to his chair in the pavilion between two other bodies. His head was cushioned by a pillow. His death was not by poison. It was by a self-inflicted GSW. Gunshot wound. I'm using nurse terms.
Gotcha.
So why that pisses me off is cyanide, basically what it does is it rids your body the ability to absorb oxygen. So basically when you drink it, inject it, and ingest it in any way, you basically are suffocating yourself. That's basically what you're doing. So you let that happen to every single one of those 900 people. And you were just like, I'm going to get it done quick.
Why cyanide then?
He told all of his followers it would be quick and painless.
No. Is that what he believed? Like, did he really believe that about cyanide?
I don't know. There's no way to find out now.
Well, yeah.
I said last night, if there was one person that I could bring back from the dead, if somebody was like, I'll bring back one person from the dead for you to roundhouse kick, it might be Jim Jones.
Yeah, and that's super fair and understandable, and I support you in that.
Jonestown was the greatest single loss of American civilian life in a deliberate act until the incidents of 9/11.
Wow. You said that was just under 900 people?
I think it was a little over 900 people.
Jesus. Oh my God.
They first reported like only 300 people had died, and it was like, wow. As they started collecting bodies, there's more. Most a lot of them were children. So 400 of the Jonestown victims are buried in a mass grave, not identified. They just couldn't, because it was so hot. They were in a very advanced state of decomposition.
How long after they died were they found?
I think it was maybe 2 days.
Jeez.
2 to 3 days, 4 tops.
Wow. I've never heard about that before.
But yeah, that's where the saying, don't drink the Kool-Aid, comes from.
Interesting.
So you're going to be like, wow, that Jonestown thing, that was crazy. That was wild.
That was crazy and wild.
This one gets crazier for other reasons.
Can't wait. Let's do this.
So we're going to be talking about Heaven's Gate. So I'm gonna leave the surprise till the end.
Oh, okay.
So Heaven's Gate was a UFO religious cult in San Diego.
It's always California. What did I say?
Always California. I don't know why it's California. It just
something in the water. Who knows? Or the lack of
water.
In the
water. California's in a drought. Mm. So Marshall Applewhite began going into his biblical prophecy in the early 1970s. He met Bonnie Nettles in a hospital where she worked while he was visiting a sick friend. It is rumored, though, that it was actually a psychiatric hospital that he was staying at because he had recently lost his job as the musical program director at a Catholic college for an alleged affair with a male student. So they'd concluded that they had been chosen to fulfill prophecies. They wrote a pamphlet that described the two witnesses in the book of Revelation, and they were like, that's us. And then Jesus' reincarnation was a thinly veiled reference to Applewhite. They believed that they would be killed, then restored to life in the view of others, and then transported onto a spaceship.
So this was the 70s, right?
Yeah.
This was right after the height of like of space fever in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Because man stepped on the moon for the first time in 69. So this was like right. So in a sense, part of me is like, okay, I understand the spaceship. The other part of me is like, the spaceship?
Oh,
What is this, Rocky Horror?
it's so wild. This story just goes so many places. The date I'm gonna say, I want you to remember this date.
Okay.
1975.
Okay.
Keep that in your head. So they published advertising for meetings where they recruited disciples whom they called the crew. In 75, the crew assembled at a hotel in Walport, Oregon. After selling all their worldly possessions and saying bye to loved ones, they went underground. And they just disappeared for years. Applewhite and Nettles did use different names often, notably Bo and Peep and Doe and T. Doe and T was most often used, and that's a reference to music for those of you who don't know.
I figured as soon as you said them, that's where it was going, and that makes me sad.
In the late 70s to early 80s, their philosophies kind of changed. So they believed that you didn't have to die to get transported into the spaceship and go to the next level, is what they called it. But Bonnie actually developed, I believe, liver cancer and passed away. And so the crew was like, I thought we couldn't die. Which is wild because she was a nurse. So like,
yeah.
What do you mean you think you can't die?
That's confusing.
She died, and so the philosophies changed to you would die. Your body was just a vessel, a vehicle, they often called it, and your soul is what would ascend to the next level. This is around the time where Doe, Applewhite, started dropping in these hints of possible suicide. In 96, members started renting a large home that they called the Monastery. It's basically a huge mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California. Each member, I believe it was each member, paid $7,000 per month in cash for rent.
Where were they getting that money?
They did they ran like websites and stuff for people. Because this is when the internet started becoming a big thing.
Right, that's true.
We'll get to websites later.
Yes, we will.
But also, you would have to buy alien abduction insurance that would cover up to 50 members. And if you were abducted by aliens, impregnated by aliens, or you were killed by aliens, you got $1 million.
Impregnated by aliens. Yeah. You know what? I would fake it just to get $1 million.
So around March, there was a comet called Hale-Bopp. It was really it was talked about a lot because, again, kind of the space frenzy of everything. It's talked about a whole lot, but following Hale-Bopp was like something which scientists proved it was literally just a star. But Applewhite was like, this is a UFO. This is it. This is our time. So on the 19th to the 20th of March 1997, he taped himself in Doe's final exit, speaking of mass suicide and the only way to evacuate this Earth. He persuaded 38 followers to prepare for ritual suicide so their souls could board the supposed craft. He believed that after their deaths, the UFO would take their souls to the next level. They sometimes refer to it as Tila, the evolutionary level above human, which he described as being both physical and spiritual. Preparations included each member videotaping a farewell message to friends and family, public. Bit of information on how they did it to kill themselves. Members took a lethal dose of phenobarbital mixed with applesauce or pudding and washed it down with vodka. They secured plastic bags around their heads so they would suffocate. All 39 were dressed in identical black shirts and sweatpants and brand new black and white Nike Decades athletic shoes. The shoe has since been discontinued. They also had armbands that read Heaven's Gate Away Team. Each member had a $5 bill and a roll of quarters in their pocket. Again, we don't really know why. Once a member was dead, a living member would remove the plastic bag from the person's head and cover their face with a square purple cloth. So the 39 adherents, 21 women and 18 men between the ages of 26 and 72, were believed to have died in 3 groups over 3 days, with remaining participants cleaning up after each prior group's deaths. The suicides occurred in groups of 15, 15, and 9 between approximately March 22nd and March 26th. Applewhite was the third to last member to die. 2 people remained after him and were the only ones who would be found with bags over their heads and without the purple cloths covering them. Before the last of the suicides, similar sets of packages were sent to numerous affiliated individuals with Heaven's Gate, past members, media, such. Among that list of recipients was former member Rio D'Angelo. The package contained 2 VHS tapes, one with Doe's final exit and the other with farewell messages of group followers. It also contained a letter stating that, among other things, quote, "We have exited our vehicles just as we have entered them," end quote. D'Angelo went to the Heaven's Gate home so he could verify the letter. He kind of knew what he was going to find, so he sprayed cologne on his shirt and kind of pulled it up to cover his nose and used a video camera to record what he found.
Oh, buddy.
So he called. This is quoted from the 911 call. So, quote, "Yes, I need to report an anonymous tip. Who do I talk to?" "Okay, this is regarding what?" "This is regarding a mass suicide. I can give you the address," end quote. That was the San Diego County 911 call, March 26, 1997 at 3:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So news of the 39 deaths motivated a copycat suicide of a 58-year-old man in Marysville, California. He left a note dated on March 27th that said, "I'm going on the spaceship with Halebop to be with those who have gone before me." He imitated some of the details of what the Heaven's Gate suicide had been reported up to that point. He was found dead by a friend on March 31st, and crazy enough, he has no known connection with Heaven's Gate. He was never involved. At least as far as we know, he was never actually involved with Heaven's Gate. At least 3 former members of Heaven's Gate ultimately died by suicide themselves in the months after the mass suicide event. May 6, 97, Wayne Cook and Chuck Humphrey attempted suicide in a hotel in a manner similar to that used by the group. Cook died and Humphrey survived this attempt. Another former member, James Perky Jr., died by suicide by a self-inflicted GSW on May 11th. Humphrey, who had survived his first suicide attempt, ultimately killed himself in Arizona, February of 98. So, here's where shit starts getting crazy. 2 former members, Mark and Sarah King of Phoenix, Arizona, still maintain the group's website, which now contains a large passage addressing the mass suicide and the reasons for it. The 2 do not identify themselves in interviews. So, this is, I don't know how to explain this. This is where shit starts getting really crazy. Like, that's basically the end of the story. But when I saw that, it's like, still maintains the group's website. I'm gonna go on the website. So I'm like, heavensgate.com, go. I go to the website. As soon as it opens, I get like this feeling in the pit of my stomach. So to describe it, I told Aurora not to go to it because I wanted to like talk about the experience on here and like get your first-hand reaction. The background is just like all black with like stars. Like it looks just like you take a picture of the sky. And all of the writing is in like, there's some writing in like cyan, magenta, lime green, bright yellow. And there's a flashing thing at the top of it that says red alert, like final chance to evacuate. Like it's very 90s looking. It's gaudy and tacky. I'm pretty sure some of it's written in Comic Sans MS. And I was just like, what is happening?
When was the last time this website was updated? If it still says red alert, final time to evacuate, final time to evacuate.
It's been updated with the statement about anti-suicide, but other than that, I don't believe it's been updated.
Wow.
So on their website, you can actually buy their book for $45 USD. And as much as I loved researching for this project, there's no way I'm buying a $45 book from a cult. They don't need my money.
Yeah. Wait, so hold on. The cult is still active?
Yeah. But it's, as far as I know, it's just the two people running the website who believe it. Other people may believe it, but nobody's actively going to try and commit suicide.
Okay. I was
and I can verify this in a bit. So I was looking through and I'm clicking through each one of the things, just kind of scanning, not actually like reading anything. And then there was one that said overview of present mission. And I was like, oh, is this like most recently updated? Like, this is probably the most recent thing. I clicked on it and I kind of scanned it and I was like, there's no way that this is recent, like whatever. Then I see in the top right corner, it says by Twinody, a student. And I remembered from watching all of the exit videos that names ending in Odie were nicknames for each member, and they were called students. So I start spiraling. I go and I look up a list of the people who passed, and I'm looking for somebody possibly with the last name Twinody to see what would make sense. And I was like, no, none of this makes sense. So I was like, wait, let me go to Reddit. And I look up Heaven's Gate student nicknames. And I saw Dronody on the list and then dash Judith Rowland. So the person who wrote that page is fucking dead now. Like, they died with the group.
Oh.
And I went and I read about her. I believe she was like a healthcare professional, like had a family who loved her and everything. And the eeriest thing I have seen was that little thing in the top right corner. I was just like, oh, I feel sick. So, continuing with the craziness of me on their website, I scroll to the bottom and I see an email. And I'm already in like a manic state of research.
Yes.
And you can ask any of my friends, I was like screaming to the group chat, being like, guys, I got excited. So I see this email. I was like, I'm gonna send him an email. And I debated for a couple minutes. I was like, is this something I should do? Like, what if they think I'm trying to join, which is like not something I'm trying to do? But I was like, I think I can make it kind of clear that I'm just looking for research and I'm not looking to join. So I emailed them. Hello, I'm the host of a podcast, and in an upcoming episode, we will be talking about Heaven's Gate. I am looking to gather some research and was hoping you could provide any additional information that isn't provided on your website. We will not release your names, as I know you're private, but if you had any comments you'd like to make, they'll be quoted as members of Heaven's Gate. You can send any information back to this email address. Best regards, B. That's what I sent. It's like, I'm not trying to join, but I just want research. They emailed back
very quickly.
35 minutes later.
Yeah.
After 30 minutes, I was like, they're not going to email me. They're going to be like, no.
Mm-hmm.
But they emailed back 5 minutes and said, quote, we answer questions via email, end quote. No, like, ending, you know how there's like the signatures that we do on like our Flare emails?
Yeah.
Where it's like, connect with us, things like that. Like, no, none of that. It was just, we answer questions via email. No punctuation either. Like,
so answer questions.
So I was like, of course, we would not expect you to answer via video. I will include a list of questions in this email and you can reply by answering the ones you see fit. So I'm going to go my question and then their answer. So what drew you to Heaven's Gate? Do you remember the year I told you to remember?
1975.
So they said, we went to a meeting that T and Doe held at Walport, Oregon in September 1975. We listened to them for about an hour and found what they stated rang true. We joined immediately and met up with the group a few days later. So they joined right at the beginning.
So they're OGs.
They're OGs. But they obviously would have had to like leave and then come back to like.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they left. I should have sent more questions. Yeah, that was like, I was like, these people are they're OGs, like the beginning.
That's wild.
So the next question is, how do Heaven's Gate's philosophies fulfill you? They said, the understanding of the next level answers all the questions of life and the reason for living. It is a complete understanding of the universe and the controlling forces in it. And that is what drew a lot of people to Heaven's Gate. It gave so many people a purpose.
Right.
It made them feel like they had purpose and, they weren't just like here on floating rock in the middle of the world to do nothing. They had a purpose to do something. And so a lot of people found that intriguing and, again, very charismatic.
Yeah.
I will say Bonnie was a lot more charismatic than Marshall, because Marshall, when you see him, he just looks a little wild. And I'm like, I feel like you're going to murder me.
Well.
Instead, he murdered 39 people. How are you preparing to join the next level? Which I was like,
oh, I'm nervous. Oh,
they said, we have been following the understandings of the next level for nearly 46 years. We will join with them on a physical craft sometime in the near future. So basically what they're saying, and they've even stated it on their website, remaining members will not commit mass suicide. They believe that the reason why they had to leave and then come back was so they could keep spreading the word. There's a big paragraph on their website stating that they are against suicide. They're like, sometime in the near future. I'm like, how soon? Because, like, okay, depending on how soon it is, can I come watch? Because if you guys get beamed up into a fucking spaceship, I will take over the website for you.
You know what?
Straight up.
I'd buy it.
I'll make them sign, like, contracts that's like, you can literally not sue or, like, arrest me because they literally were like, I just want to see it. And I'll have to, like, record it. I'll have to hold, like, a video camera. And then, like, if I see them get, like, beamed up, I'm going to be like, I believe it. I'm going to spread the word now. You got it. I'm going to reformat the website, though. It's naughty as hell.
We might have to, like, put it, like, change the server, move it over to, like, WordPress,
Maybe not write it in Comic Sans MS.
Yeah.
I'm like, how soon in the near future?
See, when you first said that, I was like, B, are you wishing their death? But no, it's just so that you can witness aliens.
Yeah, no, if they get beamed up, then I will believe and I will take over your website. I don't want to go in the UFO. I just want to redo your website. Like, they bought the domain name and everything too. Like, it's serious.
Yeah. So, dear listeners, true crime? No, this entire episode was not about true crime. It was about B wanting to run a website.
So there's one more question. What is something you would like the general public to know about Heaven's Gate? The answer is there is a real physical level above the human one on this planet. It is called the next level, and they created this planet and all the life on it.
Interesting.
And that was my conversation with a cult. So that is why we left Heaven's Gate till the end, because we gotta build to it. We are probably gonna call this episode "B Emailed a Cult."
Yeah, exactly.
Because clickbait.
That's so cool. It's cool, but also terrifying,
Oh yeah, I would love to do a part 2 where I can talk about other cases.
Yes. We should do part 2. Hey, listeners, viewers. If you want a part 2, let us know. Hit us up on our Instagram at We're Trying Pod, or leave us a question or a voice memo saying, I want more true crime with B, and Aurora's stupid interjections throughout.
Some people like to say that my obsession with true crime scares them, because I feel like I could easily get away with murder.
Yeah. I feel like out of every single person I know, you're the one that I would most believe to either accidentally join a cult or like accidentally somehow be tied to a murder. not necessarily the murderer.
Well,
but
I
somehow
almost accidentally did join a cult because I emailed a cult. Now
that
they
is
have
true.
my contact information.
That is true. Yeah, I've never been super into true crime, but the whole Ted Bundy thing a couple years ago, I was like, I don't know. Like the idea of like looking so much into crime kind of terrifies me. And then I spent a lot of this summer watching BuzzFeed Unsolved videos. I know, don't look at me like that again. Um, it's fascinating. It really is. I think you're right. It is fascinating, terrifying, but fascinating.
I'm to the point in my journey with loving true crime that I can like look at crime scene photos and like be chill. And I'm just like research.
Research. Hmm.
Like I watched all of the exit videos for Heaven's Gate. I listened to the final recording for Jonestown. And I was just like yeah, it was a lot at points. And I was like, ooh. But like to me it's research.
Wow.
And I find it fascinating. And I would love to I wish some people in the cult were still alive so I could talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wish all of them didn't die.
Yeah.
And like there's so many lives in the stories I told that were lost. And I do want to say I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any of the families, any of the people that were hurt or involved by this. True crime is just something that interests me, and I like going through the facts and learning more and more about it.
And I'm just here for the ride.
Please don't cancel me. I like talking about true crime. It's interesting to me.
So I guess my final question for you is, do you think it would happen again? A cult?
Like one of the cults we talked about, or just a cult in general?
Similar, like a cult similar to those ones.
I don't know if a cult similar to those ones would happen, but I do believe that there's cults everywhere. There's literally cults everywhere that are just hiding, and we don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
You could identify almost any religion, because often cults are religious thing.
Yeah.
You could almost call any religion a cult, any organized religion. Which is why I'm not the biggest fan of organized religion anymore. Simple as that. But the question comes into play if the group isn't hurting anyone or hurting themselves, or even if they're hurting themselves and they're choosing to make that decision, unlike Jonestown where people were forcibly killed. Is it bad?
Yeah.
I think it kind of is, but at the same time, if you're in a, like, it's a very fine line. What happened was terrible. I'm not going to say that it was okay, but they were adults who chose to make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
I've done lots of research also into the families of the victims, and that was the hardest part of my research because so many people were affected by something great that happened. And then even if somebody thought, oh, we have no known connection to Heaven's Gate in our family, we're fine. Somebody with no known connection still affected their family.
Yeah.
Like there was one member of Heaven's Gate, what was his name? Dang it. Stephanie Harlow put this in her 3-part series on Heaven's Gate. This mom told her son, if anything's going to happen to you, if you're hurt, you're sick, or anything, will you at least call me before anything happens? And just let me know what's going on. 3 days prior to the suicides, 3 days in a row, she got 3 phone calls, and by the time she got up and got to the phone, the person had hung up. She always wonders if that was her son calling to keep his promise. And that was so difficult for me to listen to.
Oh my God.
This is going to be like a dark podcast. Rip. I'm sorry, y'all.
How am I supposed to go about the rest of my day with that, specifically that last comment on my mind?
Do you want me to talk about Roundhouse kicking Jim Jones again?
Well, thank you so much for listening today. Next week, we're going to be taking on a much lighter toned subject. Next week, we are talking about one of my favorite topics of all time, movie musicals. So very, very different. I'm going to be taking the lead on that one, and probably going to talk about the first movie musical up into the most recent, which would be like Cats, and one of my favorites, Rocket Man. So can't wait for that. So thank you so much for listening. Again, my name is Aurora.
My name is Bea.
And we are just out here trying.
Please try to not join a cult or accidentally join a cult at all. Just try. If you're going to try one thing this week, just don't join a cult.
That's what we're trying to do. So
Am I trying?
You might just walk right into one.
On accident.
Accidentally. Anyway, thanks. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.